My name is Madison, and at 27, I believed family always had your back. My mom, Barbara, stepdad Rick, and half-brother Derek were my world, my safety net. That changed the day I overheard those 9 words that shattered everything. She never says no to family. We just need to ask. I never imagined they would try to destroy my life, my career, my future. But when they framed me, they never expected I would fight back so decisively. Before I dive into how my own family tried to destroy me, let me know where you're watching from in the comments and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to choose between your peace and toxic family members. I grew up in a small suburb outside of Boston, in a modest 3-bedroom house with a yard just big enough for weekend barbecues and the occasional game of catch. Until I was 8. It was just my mom and me after my biological father left when I was still a toddler. I barely remember him, just fragments of a deep voice and the smell of mint chewing gum. Everything changed when Mom met Rick. He was charming, financially stable, and seemed genuinely interested in being a father figure in my life. They married after dating for a year. And for the first time, I felt like I had a complete family. Rick would help me with my math homework, taught me how to ride a bike, and never missed a single school event. I started calling him Dad within months of him moving in. When I was 10, my half-brother Derek was born. I still remember holding his tiny body in the hospital, making a silent promise to be the best big sister possible. Mom and Rick doted on him from day one. He was the perfect baby with big blue eyes and a tuft of blonde hair that strangers would always comment on. As the years passed, our family dynamic shifted in subtle ways. Derek became the undisputed center of attention. His first steps, first words, first everything was celebrated with enthusiasm that seemed to overshadow my own achievements. Still, I understood. He was the baby, and I was growing more independent. By the time I graduated high school with honors and a scholarship to a prestigious university, the pattern was clear. My accomplishments were acknowledged with a nod and a good job, while Derek's average grades were celebrated with dinners out and excessive praise. Derek just needs more encouragement, Mom would say whenever I mentioned the disparity. You're naturally gifted, Madison. You don't need as much support. Despite this, I worked hard through college, majoring in finance and economics. While my friends partied, I interned at financial firms every summer, building connections and gaining experience. After graduation, I secured a position at Hamilton Financial Advisors, one of the most respected firms in the Northeast. Through dedication and countless late nights, I worked my way up to senior financial advisor by 27, managing portfolios for high-net-worth clients. Derek took a different path. He dropped out of community college after one semester, claiming it was too restricting for his entrepreneurial spirit. What followed was a series of failed business ventures, from an app that never launched to a clothing line that produced exactly 4 overpriced t-shirts before folding. Each failure was met not with accountability, but with excuses from my mother. The market wasn't ready for his vision, she would explain, or his business partners let him down. Meanwhile, Derek lived at home rent-free, driving a BMW that Rick helped finance, and cycling through jobs that rarely lasted more than a few months. Despite this, he maintained the lifestyle of someone far more successful, with designer clothes and weekend trips with friends that were mysteriously funded despite his apparent lack of income. Last year, I purchased my first apartment, a modern 1-bedroom in a secure building downtown. It wasn't extravagant, but it was mine, bought with my savings and a carefully planned mortgage. When I hosted a small housewarming party, I couldn't help but notice the tension in my family's congratulations. Must be nice to spend money on yourself like that, Derek commented while examining my new kitchen appliances. What do you mean? I asked. Nothing. Just saying some people have different priorities. Some of us think about others first. Mom quickly changed the subject, but the implication was clear. My financial responsibility was somehow being framed as selfishness. It started small after that. Derek needed just $2,000 to invest in a friend's startup. Mom's car required unexpected repairs. Rick wanted to borrow money for a surprise anniversary trip for Mom. I helped when I could, believing that's what family does for each other. The requests became more frequent. Derek needed bail money after a DUI. Mom wanted a loan for a kitchen renovation. Rick hinted about investment opportunities that couldn't wait. I began to feel like an ATM rather than a daughter and sister. When I started saying no or suggesting more affordable alternatives, the guilt trips intensified. Family helps family, Madison. Mom would say with disappointment heavy in her voice. We were always there for you, Rick would remind me, conveniently forgetting I had put myself through college with minimal help from them. Last month, we gathered at the family home for Mom's birthday. I brought my boyfriend Tyler, who I'd been dating for about a year. Tyler works as an architect at a growing firm and is one of the most grounded people I know. He notices things about people that I sometimes miss, reading between lines I didn't even see. During dinner, I caught Mom and Derek exchanging glances whenever financial topics came up. When Tyler mentioned our plans to take a vacation to Italy next year, Mom immediately asked who was paying for it. We're splitting it, I said. We've both been saving. Must be nice, Derek muttered. Later that night, as Tyler and I drove home, he voiced what I had been trying to ignore. Your family seems to have a lot of opinions about your money, he observed carefully. They're just concerned, I defended weakly. Are they concerned about you, or about what you can do for them? He asked. I didn't have an answer then, but I would soon enough. 2 weeks after Mom's birthday, I realized I had left my favorite casserole dish at her house. Since I was planning to make lasagna for Tyler that evening, I decided to swing by and pick it up during my lunch break. Mom's house was only 15 minutes from my office, and I knew she would be home since she worked part-time and had Tuesdays off. I parked in the driveway and used my key to let myself in, calling out as I entered. Mom? It's me. Just grabbing my dish. There was no response, but I heard voices coming from the kitchen. As I approached, I recognized Mom and Derek in what sounded like an intense conversation. I was about to announce myself again when I heard my name. Madison won't help with this one, Derek said, his voice frustrated. I already tried hinting about it last week, and she gave me some lecture about business plans and sustainable growth. As if she knows anything about real entrepreneurship. You're approaching her all wrong, Mom replied. She never says no to family. We just need to ask the right way. I froze in the hallway, my hand gripping the door frame. What's the right way to ask for $50,000? Derek laughed bitterly. That's what I need to make this crypto investment work. My friend Jason says it's guaranteed to triple in 6 months. Nothing's guaranteed, Mom said, but there was no real caution in her voice. But Madison just got that promotion. You know she'll be getting a substantial bonus next quarter. She should be sharing that with family, Derek said with an entitlement that made my stomach turn. After all we've done for her. All you've done for me? I thought incredulously. What exactly have you done except take and take? She's been different since she started dating Tyler, Mom continued. He's filling her head with ideas about boundaries and financial independence. As if family doesn't come first. Tyler's a problem, Derek agreed. He's turning her against us. We need to handle this carefully, Mom said, her voice dropping slightly. Madison has that emergency fund she's always talking about. She doesn't need all that money just sitting there. Not when family needs help. She owes us, Derek insisted. After all the sacrifices we made. Don't worry about Madison, Mom assured him. I know how to handle her. She'll help family when she understands how important this is. She always comes around. My heart pounded in my chest so loudly I was certain they would hear it. My palms were sweaty. And I felt lightheaded. These people, my family, were discussing me as if I were nothing more than a resource to be exploited. They weren't concerned about my well-being or proud of my success. They were strategizing how to manipulate me out of my hard-earned money. I backed away silently, careful not to make the floorboards creak. I slipped out the front door, closing it with the gentlest click, and practically ran to my car. My hands shook so badly it took 3 attempts to get the key in the ignition. As I drove back toward my office, hot tears streamed down my face. The conversation replayed in my mind on an excruciating loop. She never says no to family. We just need to ask the right way. Those words cut deeper than any insult ever could. I couldn't focus for the rest of the workday. I moved through meetings like a ghost, nodding at appropriate intervals, but retaining nothing. By 5 o'clock, I was emotionally exhausted. I texted Tyler, "Need to talk. Can I come over?" Tyler lived in a converted industrial loft about 20 minutes from my apartment. When he opened the door, one look at my face told him something was seriously wrong. "What happened?" he asked, guiding me to his couch. I told him everything, the words tumbling out between sobs. The conversation I overheard. The way they talked about me. The years of increasingly demanding requests that suddenly made sense in this new, terrible context. Tyler listened without interrupting, his expression growing more concerned with each detail. When I finished, he took my hands in his. "Madison, I'm so sorry," he said softly. "But I'm not entirely surprised. I've noticed how they treat you, how they react when you don't immediately fulfill their requests. This isn't normal family behavior." "Maybe I misunderstood," I said weakly, still struggling to accept the reality of my family's betrayal. "You know you didn't," Tyler said gently. "They were very clear. They see you as a resource, not as a daughter or sister. They're planning how to manipulate you." "What do I do?" I asked, feeling lost. "You protect yourself," he said firmly. "You set boundaries. You don't give them any more money, for starters. And you watch very carefully how they react when the ATM suddenly stops working." I nodded slowly, the pain in my chest morphing into something harder, more resolute. "They mentioned my emergency fund," I said. "How would they even know how much is in there unless they've been looking at my financial information?" "I never told them specific amounts." Tyler's expression darkened. "That's a very good question. And it might be worth checking if they've accessed any of your accounts or personal information." That night, I barely slept. The family I thought I had, the one I believed would always support me as I supported them, had been an illusion. In reality, I was just a convenient source of funds. A mark to be manipulated by the people who should have loved me most. She never says no to family. But perhaps it was time I learned how. The next few weeks were an exercise in painful clarity. Once I knew what to look for, the manipulation tactics my family employed became glaringly obvious. 3 days after overhearing the conversation, Derek called me. He started with small talk about his weekend and a new restaurant he tried, then seamlessly transitioned to his real purpose. "So I've been working on this amazing business opportunity," he said, excitement palpable in his voice. "It's in cryptocurrency, and my friend who works in tech says it's the next big thing. Early investors are going to make a killing." "That sounds interesting." I replied neutrally. "The thing is," he continued, "I need about $50,000 to get in at the ground level." "I know it sounds like a lot. But you'd get your investment back plus profit in 6 months, guaranteed." There it was, the exact amount I'd heard him discussing with Mom. I took a deep breath. "I'm not comfortable investing that kind of money in cryptocurrency," I said firmly. "It's extremely volatile, and there are no guarantees in that market." There was a pause. Then his tone changed completely. "Wow, Madison. I thought you'd be more supportive. This is my chance to finally build something successful, but I guess my own sister doesn't believe in me." "It's not about believing in you," I explained. "It's about risk assessment, which is literally my job." "Your job," he scoffed. "Right. You've always thought you're better than me because of your fancy office and title. Some of us are trying to create something, not just shuffle other people's money around." The conversation deteriorated from there, ending with Derek angrily telling me I'd regret not getting in on this opportunity when he was making millions. I hung up feeling drained, but strangely empowered. I had said no, and the world hadn't ended. A few days later, Mom called. "Derek told me about your conversation," she began, disappointment heavy in her voice. "I thought we raised you to support family." "I support Derek emotionally," I replied. "But $50,000 for a cryptocurrency investment isn't something I can do right now. You have that emergency fund just sitting there," she pushed. "And we both know you're getting that bonus soon." My blood ran cold at the confirmation that they had indeed been discussing my finances in detail. "How did she know about my bonus structure?" "My emergency fund is for emergencies," I said. "And my bonus is already allocated for my retirement accounts and some necessary home repairs." Family is an emergency, she insisted. Derek needs this chance to prove himself. Don't you want him to succeed? Of course I do, I said. But this isn't the way. I never thought you'd be so selfish, she said before hanging up. The next weekend, I reluctantly attended a family dinner at my parents' house. The atmosphere was tense, with Mom giving me wounded looks and Derek barely acknowledging my presence. Rick, surprisingly, was colder than usual as well. During coffee and dessert, Rick brought up finances. The market's been good to you lately, hasn't it, Madison? It's been steady. I replied cautiously. You know, your brother has a real opportunity here, he continued. If family can't help family, what's the point? I was stunned to hear Rick joining the pressure campaign. He had always been the more reasonable one. I've explained my position, I said firmly. I'm not changing my mind. Later. While helping Mom with dishes, I noticed my handbag had been moved from where I left it in the living room to the hall table. A quick check confirmed nothing was missing. But a sense of unease settled over me. Were you looking for something in my bag? I asked Mom directly. Don't be ridiculous, she snapped. Why would I go through your things? The following week, I received an alert from my credit card company about unusual activity. There were charges from electronic stores and online marketplaces I hadn't visited. I immediately called to dispute the charges and had the card canceled. When I logged into my email to check for confirmation from the credit card company, I noticed several password reset emails for various financial accounts that I hadn't requested. Someone had attempted to access my investment accounts, but had been blocked by the two-factor authentication I had in place. The invasion of privacy felt like a physical blow. Someone had tried to access my financial accounts, and given the timing and what I knew, I had little doubt who was behind it. I spent the evening securing all my accounts, changing passwords, and setting up additional security measures. I also checked my credit report and placed a fraud alert on my account as a precaution. The next day, I went to my parents' house unannounced. I needed to confront this situation directly. Mom seemed flustered by my surprise visit. Madison, what brings you by? Someone tried to access my financial accounts, I said without preamble. And there were unauthorized charges on my credit card. Her face paled slightly, but she quickly recovered. That's terrible. Identity theft is so common these days. Is it identity theft when it's family? I asked pointedly. What are you implying? She demanded, color rising in her cheeks. I think you know, I said. The attempts happened right after I refused to give Derek money for his cryptocurrency scheme. The same scheme you and he were discussing. Saying I never say no to family, and you just need to ask the right way. Her expression shifted from indignation to shock. You were eavesdropping on us? I came to get my casserole dish, and overheard you plotting to manipulate me, I corrected. And now someone's trying to access my accounts. That's not a coincidence. You're being paranoid, she insisted. And frankly, selfish. Family helps family, Madison. Your brother needs this opportunity, and you're in a position to help. Instead, you're throwing around wild accusations. I'm not giving Derek $50,000 for a cryptocurrency scheme, I stated firmly. And I expect this invasion of my privacy to stop immediately. Or I'll be forced to take more serious measures. Are you threatening your family? She asked incredulously. I'm protecting myself, I corrected. Something I should have started doing a long time ago. I left feeling both shaken and resolved. The gaslighting was infuriating, but I knew what I had heard and what was happening. That weekend, Rick called and asked me to come to dinner, saying we needed to clear the air. Against my better judgment, I agreed. When I arrived, the atmosphere was artificially pleasant. Mom had prepared my favorite meal, and Derek was on his best behavior, asking about my work with seemingly genuine interest. Halfway through dinner, Rick cleared his throat. Madison, we need to talk about this situation. Your mother told me about your accusations, and I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, I said. Someone tried to access my accounts right after I refused to give Derek money. The same money I overheard him and Mom discussing how to get from me. Look, Rick said, his tone conciliatory. We're all under financial pressure right now. I've had some gambling issues that got out of hand. We remortgaged the house and things are tight. Derek's investment opportunity could help all of us. I was stunned. You remortgaged the house for gambling debts? And now you want me to bail everyone out? We're family, Mom interjected. We support each other through hard times. By stealing from each other? I asked incredulously. No one stole anything, Derek said defensively. The account attempts didn't even work. His words confirmed my suspicions entirely. How would he know the attempts didn't work unless he was behind them? The dinner devolved into a tense standoff, with my family alternating between denial, guilt-tripping, and thinly veiled accusations of selfishness. I left feeling more isolated from them than ever before. That night, I called my best friend Jessica and told her everything. Unlike my family, her outrage on my behalf was genuine. You need to protect yourself, Madison, she advised. These people are trying to use you. Blood doesn't excuse that. The next day, I called an attorney friend for advice on securing my finances and identity against family members. Her response was sobering. This isn't just manipulative, Madison, she explained. Attempting to access financial accounts without permission is illegal. You should document everything, just in case. I took her advice, creating a detailed timeline of events and saving all communication with my family. Little did I know how crucial this documentation would soon become. The following Tuesday started like any other workday. I arrived at my office by 8, reviewed client portfolios, and prepared for a morning meeting. Everything seemed normal until my assistant Kate appeared at my door with an unusual expression. Mr. Hamilton wants to see you in his office, she said quietly. Right away. Frank Hamilton was the founder and CEO of our firm. While I reported to the Director of Financial Advisory Services, it was rare to be called directly to Hamilton's office without warning. Did he say what it's about? I asked, already standing and straightening my blazer. Kate shook her head. Just that it's urgent. The walk to the executive floor felt longer than usual. When I arrived, Hamilton's executive assistant immediately ushered me in without the usual pleasantries. Inside, I found not just Frank Hamilton, but also Diane Mercer from HR and James Wilson, our general counsel. Their expressions were grave. Madison, please sit down, Hamilton said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. As I sat, a sick feeling began forming in the pit of my stomach. Madison, some serious allegations have come to our attention, Hamilton began, his normally friendly tone formal and distant. We've discovered irregularities in several client accounts that you manage. Irregularities? I repeated, genuinely confused. What kind of irregularities? James Wilson slid a folder across the desk. Inside were printouts of transactions I had never authorized, showing transfers from client accounts to an offshore entity I didn't recognize. These transactions were initiated from your terminal, using your credentials, Wilson explained. Over the past 3 weeks, approximately $200,000 has been diverted from various client accounts. My head spun. That's impossible. I never made these transactions. The logs show your credentials were used, Diane from HR said. And the authorizations came from your computer during business hours when you were present in the office. I didn't do this. I insisted, panic rising in my throat. Someone must have accessed my computer or stolen my credentials. That's a very serious allegation, Hamilton said. We take client security extremely seriously. So do I responded. I would never compromise client funds. You know me, Frank. I've been with this firm for 5 years. My client relationships and ethics are impeccable. Hamilton's expression softened slightly. Which is why this is so disturbing. Madison. We have no choice but to suspend you pending a full investigation. We've already notified the relevant regulatory authorities. You've what? I gasped. This will destroy my career. And I haven't done anything wrong. If that's true, the investigation will clear you, Wilson said. But the evidence is concerning, to say the least. Diane explained the terms of my suspension. No access to company systems, no contact with clients, surrender of my company laptop and phone, and mandatory cooperation with investigators. In a daze, I collected my personal items under Kate's sympathetic but uncomfortable watch. Word had already spread through the office, and colleagues avoided eye contact as I walked to the elevator with a small box of my belongings. Outside the building, I sat on a bench trying to process what had happened. The transactions had started 3 weeks ago, right after I refused to give Derek money. The timing couldn't be coincidental. I pulled out my phone and called Tyler, who answered immediately. "They've suspended me," I said without preamble, my voice breaking. "Someone's been stealing from client accounts using my credentials, and they think it's me." "Where are you?" he asked. "I'm coming to get you." 20 minutes later, Tyler pulled up in his car. He took one look at my shell-shocked expression and pulled me into a tight hug. "We'll figure this out," he promised. "This has your family written all over it." Back at Tyler's apartment, I explained everything in detail. The transactions, the timing, the suspension. Derek works in IT, I realized aloud. He has the skills to hack into accounts. "And he knows your work routine," Tyler added. "He could time the transactions for when you'd be at your desk, making it look like you were the one doing it." I remembered something else. 2 weeks ago, Derek mentioned coming downtown for a job interview. My office building has a coffee shop on the ground floor. He could have accessed the guest Wi-Fi from there. "We need to check if he was actually there," Tyler said. "Most office buildings have security cameras in the lobby and entrance." I spent the rest of the day in a fog of disbelief and growing anger. Not only were my family trying to manipulate me financially, but they were now actively trying to destroy my career and potentially send me to prison. That evening, my phone rang with my mother's number. "Madison, we just heard what happened," she said, her voice full of concern that I now recognized as completely artificial. "Rick has a friend at the Regulatory Commission. He told us about the investigation." "Did he?" I asked coldly. "And what exactly did he tell you?" "That there are accusations about misappropriated client funds," she said. "Madison, what were you thinking?" The audacity took my breath away. "You think I did this?" "Well, the evidence seems pretty clear," she said. "But don't worry. Family sticks together. If you confess and return the money, the consequences might not be as severe." "Confess?" I repeated incredulously. "To something I didn't do." "Sometimes good people make mistakes when they're under pressure," she continued. "If you needed money, you should have come to us. We would have helped you find another solution." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. This wasn't just about getting money from me anymore. This was about making me desperate. About destroying my career so I would have no choice but to depend on them. "Rick still has connections in the financial industry," Mom continued. "Once this blows over, he could help you find another position. Something less demanding, perhaps. You could move back home to save money while you rebuild." The trap became crystal clear. They wanted me financially dependent, living under their roof, grateful for their help, and completely under their control. "I have to go," I said abruptly and hung up. I called Jessica immediately after. "They're behind this," I told her. "They're trying to destroy my career, so I'll have to depend on them." "That's insane," Jessica gasped. "Who does that to their own daughter?" "People who see me as a resource, not a person," I replied, a strange calm settling over me. "But they've made a crucial mistake." "What's that?" "They've left evidence," I said. "And they underestimated how far I'll go to protect myself." That night, I broke down in Tyler's arms. The full weight of my family's betrayal finally hitting me. They weren't just trying to take my money. They were trying to take my freedom, my reputation, everything I had worked for. "I'll never let them do this to you," Tyler promised, holding me tight. "We'll fight this together." As I drifted into an exhausted sleep, a plan began forming in my mind. If my family wanted war, they would get one. But it wouldn't end the way they expected. The morning after my suspension, I woke with a clarity and determination I'd never felt before. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. It was about exposing the truth and holding those responsible accountable, even if they were family. First, I contacted Amanda, a colleague from the IT security department at Hamilton Financial whom I'd befriended during company events. I explained my situation without directly accusing my family. "Someone has framed me." "Amanda," I said, "I need to prove it wasn't me making those transactions." Amanda agreed to meet me for coffee away from the office. "I can't access company systems for you," she warned. but I can explain what evidence they'll be looking for and what might help your case. During our meeting, Amanda provided crucial insights. Every transaction leaves a digital fingerprint, she explained. IP addresses, timestamps, keystroke patterns. If someone else accessed your accounts, there will be anomalies. What about physical access? I asked. Could someone have used my actual computer? Possibly, she said. But they'd need your login credentials and potentially bypass the building's security. Do you have any idea who might have done this? I hesitated before answering honestly. I have strong suspicions it was my brother. He works in IT and has been pressuring me for money recently. Amanda's eyes widened. Your own brother? I'm so sorry, Madison. I need to prove it, I said firmly. Start with establishing his presence at or near your office, she advised. Building security logs, surveillance footage, even coffee shop receipts or credit card transactions in the area. Anything that places him there during the times those fraudulent transactions occurred. Armed with this advice, I contacted the security department at my office building. Explaining that I was helping with an internal fraud investigation, I requested footage from the lobby and entrance for specific dates when the transactions occurred. The security manager was initially hesitant but became more cooperative when I mentioned the regulatory authorities were already involved. I'll need proper authorization, he insisted. Of course, I replied. My attorney will provide that. I didn't have an attorney yet, but I would soon. Next, I hired Samantha Reed, a lawyer specializing in financial crimes. After explaining my situation, she took immediate action. This is extremely serious, Samantha said. If your family is behind this, they've committed multiple felonies. We need to move quickly to secure evidence before it disappears. With Samantha's help, I also engaged a private cybersecurity specialist named Marcus, who could analyze the digital trail without requiring access to my company's systems. We'll focus on establishing that someone else had your credentials and proving your brother had both motive and opportunity, Samantha explained. Over the next week, we assembled our case methodically. The building security footage proved invaluable, clearly showing Derek entering my office building on 3 separate occasions that aligned perfectly with the fraudulent transactions. In one particularly damning clip, he was visible using a laptop in the building's coffee shop for over 2 hours. Marcus discovered that Derek had created several fake email accounts in my name, which were used to receive confirmation of the fraudulent transactions. These accounts were accessed from IP addresses associated with my parents' home and Derek's apartment. He wasn't particularly careful about covering his digital tracks, Marcus noted. He used basic VPN services that are easily traced with the right tools. Either he's not as skilled as he thinks, or he was counting on no one looking too closely. I remembered something else potentially valuable. The last time I was at my parents' house, I noticed my work ID badge had been moved in my purse. Could Derek have cloned it somehow? Absolutely, Marcus confirmed. With the right equipment, which isn't hard to obtain, he could have created a duplicate to access your building. That would explain how he got past security so easily. Through a former colleague who still had access to the office, I learned that the internal investigation had already identified anomalies in the transaction patterns. The fraudulent transactions used command sequences and shortcuts that weren't part of my normal work pattern, something the keystroke analysis had flagged. This is all helpful, Samantha said during one of our strategy sessions. But what we really need is direct evidence of their intent to frame you. That's when I decided on a risky but potentially decisive move. I would record conversations with my family to capture their admission of guilt. After confirming with Samantha that my state had one-party consent laws for recordings, I prepared for a family confrontation. I purchased a high-quality recording device and downloaded a backup recording app on my phone. Before taking this step, I called Jessica to discuss my plan. Are you sure about this? She asked. Confronting them might make them more careful about what they say. I need them to admit what they've done, I explained. And I think I know how to get them to talk. The next day, I called my mother. I need to talk to everyone, I said, my voice deliberately shaky. Things are getting worse with the investigation. I'm thinking about confessing to make this go away. Oh, Madison, she said, sounding relieved. I think that's for the best. Come over tonight. We'll figure out next steps as a family. That evening, I arrived at my parents' house with my recording devices active. Derek's car was already in the driveway alongside my parents. Perfect. Mom greeted me with a hug that felt like a straitjacket. We're here for you, she said, leading me to the living room where Rick and Derek waited. I took a deep breath and began my performance. The investigators have more evidence than I thought, I said, staring at the floor. They're saying they can prove it was me who made those transactions. What kind of evidence? Derek asked quickly, a flash of concern crossing his face. Digital trails, timestamps, everything, I said vaguely. They're building a case for criminal charges. That's terrible, Mom said, patting my hand. But confession is always the best option. With Rick's connections, we can make sure you get a fair deal. I just don't understand how they caught me, I continued, watching Derek carefully. I thought I was so careful. Derek shifted uncomfortably. These security systems are pretty sophisticated. But I never even accessed those offshore accounts. I pushed. How could they trace it back to me? Rick and Mom exchanged glances, but Derek took the bait. They probably tracked the IP address, he explained, then caught himself. I mean, that's what they usually do in these cases. Maybe I should fight it, I suggested. Claim someone hacked my accounts or stole my credentials. No, Derek said too quickly. That would just drag things out and make the penalties worse when they eventually prove it was you. Your brother's right, Rick agreed. The evidence won't go away. Better to deal with this head-on. I buried my face in my hands, secretly adjusting the recording device in my pocket. I don't understand why this is happening to me. Mom moved to sit beside me. Sometimes good people make bad choices when they're desperate, sweetheart. But we'll help you through this. You can move back home while you sort things out. Your old room is still there, Rick added. And I've already talked to some contacts about potential positions once this blows over. Nothing as high profile as Hamilton, of course, but something to keep you afloat. The important thing is that we stick together as a family, Mom emphasized. Like you've always stuck by me? I asked, a hint of my true feelings slipping through. Exactly, Derek said, missing my sarcasm. Family first, always. I looked up at him directly. So none of you had anything to do with this? With framing me for fraud after I wouldn't give Derek the $50,000 for his cryptocurrency scheme. The room fell silent. Derek's face paled. What are you talking about? Mom finally asked, her voice strained. It's interesting that the fraud started exactly 3 weeks ago, I continued. Right after I refused to give Derek money. Right after I overheard you both discussing how to manipulate me because she never says no to family. You're being paranoid, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Because building security has footage of you in my office building on the exact days the fraudulent transactions occurred. The same transactions made using my credentials, which you could easily have stolen when you went through my bag that day I visited. Rick stood up suddenly. Madison, these accusations are out of line. We're trying to help you. You're trying to control me, I corrected. You want me dependent and grateful, living under your roof where you can access my money whenever you want. That's ridiculous, Mom protested. But her eyes darted nervously to Derek. I turned to my brother. The cybersecurity specialist I hired traced the fake email accounts to IP addresses from this house and your apartment, Derek. Did you really think no one would check? Derek's composure cracked. You wouldn't help me when I needed it, he burst out. $50,000 is nothing to you. But you were too selfish to help your own brother. Derek, be quiet, Rick warned, but it was too late. You were going to lose that job eventually anyway, Derek continued, his voice rising. At least this way, it would benefit the family. You'd finally understand what it means to need help, to not be the perfect, successful Madison looking down on everyone else. So you admit you framed me? I pressed, my hand tightening around the recorder. It was for your own good. Derek insisted. You've changed since you got that promotion. Since you started dating Tyler. You forgot what family means. Family doesn't steal from each other, I said coldly. Family doesn't try to destroy each other's lives. No one was trying to destroy anything, Mom interjected desperately. We were just trying to bring you back to the family. You would have thanked us later when you needed us. When I needed you? I repeated incredulously. You manufactured a situation where I would need you by trying to destroy my career and potentially send me to prison. No one was going to prison, Rick insisted. I have connections. It would have been handled. Their admissions were piling up, each one captured clearly on my recording. They weren't even denying it anymore, just justifying their actions as if framing me for financial fraud was a reasonable family intervention. I think I have everything I need, I said quietly. Standing up. What do you mean? Mom asked, confusion replacing her defensive posture. I pulled out the recording device. I mean, I have your confessions. Derek admitting he framed me. All of you admitting you knew about it. Conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, computer crimes, the list goes on. The color drained from their faces simultaneously. You recorded us? Derek gasped. Your own family? My own family tried to send me to prison, I replied evenly. So yes, I recorded you. And tomorrow, this recording goes to Hamilton Financial, the regulatory authorities, and the police, unless we come to an understanding right now. The silence that followed my revelation was absolute. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Rick stood frozen mid-step, and Derek's mouth hung open in shock. For the first time since this ordeal began, I held all the power. You wouldn't, Mom finally whispered. We're your family. You stopped being my family the moment you decided to destroy my life, I replied, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. Family doesn't do what you've done. Derek lunged toward me suddenly. Give me that recorder. Tyler, who had been waiting in his car outside as a safety precaution, chose that moment to knock on the door. When no one moved to answer it, he let himself in, having been given a key by me earlier. Everything okay in here? He asked, quickly assessing the tension in the room. Derek backed away, his aggression deflating at the presence of a witness. Perfect timing, I said to Tyler. I was just explaining to my family that I have evidence of their conspiracy to frame me for financial fraud. Tyler moved to stand beside me, his presence both comforting and strengthening. And I have copies of everything already uploaded to secure cloud storage, he added. Just in case anyone has ideas about destroying evidence. Rick finally found his voice. Madison. Let's talk about this reasonably. There's no need to involve outsiders in a family matter. This stopped being just a family matter when you committed multiple felonies, I said. But I'm willing to discuss terms. Terms? Mom repeated. Yes. Terms under which I might consider not turning this evidence over to the authorities immediately. I laid out my requirements clearly. First, Derek would provide a signed, notarized confession admitting to the fraud and completely exonerating me. Second, all three of them would cooperate fully with Hamilton Financial's investigation, confirming my innocence. Third, they would repay every dollar stolen from client accounts. And finally, they would agree to have no contact with me moving forward. No contact. Mom gasped. But we're your family. That's non-negotiable, I stated firmly. You've proven I can't trust you. I want no contact, no attempts to reach me through friends, no showing up at my workplace or home. Nothing. This is ridiculous, Derek sputtered. You're overreacting. Am I? I asked coldly. You tried to send me to prison, Derek. You tried to destroy my career, my reputation, everything I've worked for. What would you call an appropriate reaction to that? Rick, ever the pragmatist, intervened. What happens if we agree to your terms? Then I'll consider not pressing criminal charges, I said. The recording and other evidence stays with my attorney, who has instructions to release everything to the authorities if any of you break the agreement or if anything suspicious happens to me. You've thought of everything, haven't you? Rick remarked, a strange mix of anger and grudging respect in his voice. I learned from the best, I replied coldly. So what will it be? My terms. Or shall I call Detective Sanders at the Financial Crimes Unit right now? He's been very interested in this case. The three of them exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, Rick nodded slowly. We'll agree to your terms, he said. But the no contact goes both ways. If we're cutting ties, we're cutting ties completely. Agreed, I said without hesitation. Madison, please, Mom tried one last manipulation, tears welling in her eyes. We can work through this as a family. Everyone makes mistakes. Framing your daughter for fraud isn't a mistake. I replied, it's a calculated betrayal. And I'm done letting you manipulate me with guilt and fake tears. The process of implementing our agreement took several days. Derek, under supervision from Samantha, wrote out his full confession, detailing how he had stolen my credentials, accessed my work computer, and conducted the fraudulent transactions. The document was notarized and provided to Hamilton Financial and the regulatory authorities. Mom and Rick met with the investigators separately, confirming Derek's account and my complete innocence. The stolen funds were returned from various accounts Derek had set up, funded primarily by a second mortgage Rick took out on their house. Hamilton Financial's internal investigation concluded with my full exoneration. Frank Hamilton personally called to apologize for the suspension and invited me to return to my position with additional compensation for the ordeal. Your handling of this situation showed remarkable composure and integrity, Madison, he told me. Those are exactly the qualities we value at this firm. Derek was arrested despite my agreement not to press charges. The regulatory authorities decided to pursue the case independently once they had his confession, charging him with fraud, identity theft, and computer crimes. Given the substantial evidence and his confession, his attorney negotiated a plea deal resulting in 18 months in prison and 5 years of probation. Mom and Rick avoided criminal charges due to insufficient evidence of their direct involvement in the fraud itself, though their knowledge of it was clear from the recordings. They faced social consequences, however, as news of the case spread through their community. Rick was asked to resign from his position on the local business association board, and several of their friends distanced themselves. As for me, returning to work was both a relief and a challenge. Though officially cleared, I knew some colleagues would always wonder if there was more to the story. The experience had changed me fundamentally. I was more cautious, more aware of potential manipulation, and far less willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. 2 months after my return to Hamilton Financial, I received a promotion to Director of Client Services, a position that came with a significant salary increase and greater responsibility. Frank explained that my handling of the crisis had demonstrated leadership qualities the firm valued. Not many people could have navigated such a personal betrayal with the professionalism you showed, he told me. The last time I saw my family was at the courthouse after Derek's sentencing. Mom attempted to approach me in the hallway, but I simply turned and walked away, Tyler by my side. The temptation to look back was strong, but I kept my eyes forward, focused on the future I was building, not the past I was leaving behind. That night, as Tyler and I shared a quiet dinner in my apartment, he raised his glass in a toast. To closing chapters, he said. I clinked my glass against his. And to writing new ones. The family that had raised me was gone, replaced by the knowledge that they had never truly been the support system I believed them to be. But in their place, I was building something stronger. Something based on genuine care and respect rather than obligation and manipulation. As painful as the experience had been, it had also been clarifying. I now knew with absolute certainty who I could trust and who deserved a place in my life. And that knowledge, though hard won, was ultimately freeing. 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of my new home, a modern townhouse with large windows and a small garden, preparing dinner for what had become our monthly gathering. Tyler moved around me with practiced ease, setting the table as music played softly in the background. Jessica just texted, he said, checking his phone. They're running about 15 minutes late. Liam got caught up with a work call. No problem, I replied. The lasagna needs a few more minutes anyway. So much had changed in a year. Tyler and I had moved in together, combining our lives with surprising smoothness. The diamond engagement ring on my left hand caught the light as I chopped vegetables for the salad, a constant reminder of the future we were building together. My career had flourished at Hamilton Financial. The promotion to Director of Client Services had led to an expanded role overseeing client relationship management across the firm. Frank Hamilton had become something of a mentor, recognizing in me a dedication and integrity that aligned with his vision for the company. The doorbell rang and Tyler went to answer it. Moments later, Jessica and her husband Liam entered the kitchen, followed by Amanda from IT security and her partner Miguel. These monthly dinners had become an important ritual, a way of nurturing the relationships that had supported me through the darkest period of my life. "Something smells amazing," Jessica said, handing me a bottle of wine. "Please tell me it's your lasagna. Would I dare serve anything else?" I laughed, accepting the wine and her quick hug. As we settled around the dining table, conversation flowed easily. We talked about work, Amanda's recent promotion, Jessica's plans to start a family, and Tyler's new architectural project. Normal life, shared with people who genuinely cared about each other's well-being. It wasn't until dessert that Liam, always direct, asked the question, "Any word from your family?" The table quieted slightly. Everyone knew the story, had supported me through its aftermath in different ways. "Derek was released last month," I said calmly. "My attorney informed me as a precaution, though the restraining order is still in effect." "And your parents?" Jessica asked gently. "Nothing direct," I replied. "My cousin Stephanie called a few weeks ago. Apparently, they're telling everyone I abandoned the family over a misunderstanding." "Classic narcissist move," Amanda commented. "Rewriting history to make themselves the victims." I nodded, finding that the pain these discussions once caused had dulled considerably. "Stephanie wanted me to know she doesn't believe their version. She's heard enough over the years to recognize the pattern." This was an unexpected development from the fallout. Several extended family members had reached out over the months, sharing their own experiences with Barbara, Rick, and Derek's manipulative behaviors. Patterns that had existed long before I recognized them. "Does it still bother you?" Miguel asked. "What they're saying about you?" I considered the question carefully. "Less than it used to. I've learned that I can't control their narrative, only my response to it. And the people whose opinions matter know the truth." After dinner, as our friends helped clear the table, Jessica pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you, she said quietly. Not everyone could have rebuilt their life so completely after what happened." "I had help," I acknowledged, squeezing her hand gratefully. Later that night, after everyone had left and Tyler and I were curled up on the couch, I found myself reflecting on the journey of the past year. "What are you thinking about?" Tyler asked, noticing my contemplative mood. "Just how different everything is now," I said. "A year ago, I was still defining family by blood and obligation. I thought loyalty meant sacrificing yourself for people simply because you share DNA. And now," he prompted. "Now I know family is about respect, support, and genuine care," I said. "It's about people who want what's best for you, not what they can get from you." The therapy I had started after the ordeal with my biological family had been instrumental in this shift in perspective. Dr. Reeves had helped me recognize the patterns of manipulation I'd been subjected to throughout my life, the ways I had been conditioned to put others' needs before my own, and the guilt I carried for establishing healthy boundaries. "You know what surprised me most about this year?" I continued. "How much more authentic my relationships feel now. It's like I was carrying this weight of obligation that colored everything, and now it's gone." Tyler nodded thoughtfully. "You're different. More confident. More direct about what you want and need." This was true. In the aftermath of my family's betrayal, I had worried that I would become bitter or mistrustful of everyone. Instead, the experience had clarified my values and strengthened my ability to recognize genuine connection. About 6 months after the court case concluded, I had started a small support group for others dealing with toxic family relationships. What began as informal meetings with 3 other people had grown into a community of over 20, meeting twice monthly to share experiences and coping strategies. I received another email today from someone who found our support group online, I told Tyler. "She's going through almost exactly what I experienced, the financial manipulation, the guilt, all of it." "Will you respond?" he asked. "Already did," I said. "She's coming to next week's meeting." This was perhaps the most unexpected outcome of my ordeal, discovering a purpose in helping others navigate similar situations. There was something healing about transforming my pain into something constructive, using my experience to help others recognize manipulation and establish healthier boundaries. I had also become more attuned to the warning signs of manipulative behavior in all relationships. The subtle guilt trips, the expectations of sacrifice without reciprocity, the indirect communications designed to create obligation. These patterns, once recognized, became impossible to ignore. I ran into Rick at the grocery store last week, I admitted suddenly. Something I hadn't shared with anyone yet. Tyler sat up straighter. What happened? Nothing dramatic, I said. He saw me, I saw him. He looked like he wanted to approach, but I just turned and walked the other way. The strangest part was realizing I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. That's probably healthy, Tyler observed. Indifference is the opposite of love, not hate. Exactly, I agreed. A year ago, I was consumed by hurt and betrayal. Now, they're just people who used to be in my life. The journey to this point hadn't been easy. There were nights of crushing doubt, wondering if I had overreacted or if reconciliation might be possible. There were moments when a familiar song or smell would trigger memories of happier times, leaving me questioning my decision to cut contact completely. But each time, I would return to the evidence. To the recordings of their voices calmly discussing how to manipulate and control me, to the documented attempts to destroy my career and reputation. These weren't the actions of people who loved me. They were the actions of people who saw me as a resource to be exploited. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? Tyler asked, voicing a question that came up periodically in our discussions. I've forgiven them for my own peace, I said after a moment. But forgiveness doesn't mean allowing someone back into your life to hurt you again. I've forgiven them. But I've also accepted that they aren't capable of the kind of relationship I deserve. This distinction had been crucial to my healing process. Dr. Reeves had helped me understand that forgiveness wasn't about excusing behavior or pretending it didn't happen. It was about releasing the hold that anger and resentment had on my life. About moving forward without being defined by what had happened to me. The most important thing I've learned, I continued, is that love shouldn't cost you your self-respect. Real love builds you up. It doesn't tear you down or demand that you compromise your integrity. As Tyler and I prepared for bed that night, I caught sight of the vision board I had created during therapy. It hung on our bedroom wall, a collage of images and words representing the life I was building: trust, authenticity, peace, joy, growth, connection, security. None of these values had been present in my relationship with my biological family. All of them were foundational to the family of choice I was creating now. The next morning, I woke early and went for a run, a habit I had developed to clear my mind and start the day with intention. As I moved through the quiet streets of our neighborhood, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The pain of betrayal had been excruciating, but it had also been transformative. I had discovered strengths I didn't know I possessed, built boundaries I never knew I needed, and created connections deeper than I had thought possible. The family that tried to frame me had inadvertently set me free. In attempting to control me, they had released me from the obligation I had felt toward them. In betraying me so completely, they had given me permission to walk away without guilt. I had ended them. Not through revenge or retaliation, but by refusing to participate in their dysfunctional system any longer. By choosing myself, my integrity, and my peace over the false security of toxic family ties. As I rounded the corner toward home, I spotted Tyler waiting on our front step with 2 cups of coffee, his smile warming me more than the morning sun. This was what family should feel like: safe, supportive, a shelter from life's storms rather than the cause of them. I had learned that family isn't defined by blood, but by love, respect, and mutual support. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from those who harm you. Even when society tells you that family ties should be maintained at all costs. Most importantly, I had learned that ending toxic relationships isn't just an act of self-preservation. It's an act of self-respect, a declaration that you deserve better than manipulation, exploitation, and betrayal. The family that tried to destroy me had failed. Instead, They had inadvertently helped me build something stronger, healthier, and more authentic than what we had before. In trying to break me, they had made me unbreakable. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family relationships? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember that choosing your peace is never selfish, it's necessary. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming betrayal and building better boundaries. Thank you for listening, and remember, blood makes you related, but loyalty and respect make you family.